Welcome to another episode of Help Nobody Told Me. I'm Jasmine Shapiro. I am here in the Chicagoland area as a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Here with my co-host Mindy Leonard with Super Organized Spaces. And we have a wonderful guest today.
This is Carolyn Collins. Thank you for being here with us. We're so excited to have you. And I am just going to read her bio so that I don't mess anything up. Carolyn is a licensed clinical professional counselor, a board-certified art therapist, a health coach, and founder of Be Healthy Within, which is a wellness company dedicated to promoting mental health awareness, cultivating a growth mindset, and deepening connections to yourself and to others. She has a whole body integrative approach. Carolyn helps individuals find balance in their lives by fostering awareness, acceptance, and meaningful change. Her mission is rooted in the belief that when we connect to ourselves, we create the foundation for stronger connections with others and with the world around us. Beyond her professional work, Carolyn is a mother of 4, a wife, a daughter, a sister, and a friend. She understands firsthand how personal well-being creates the ripple effect, positively influencing families, communities, and the environment. Guided by this philosophy, she strives to support others in living healthier, more connected, and more purposeful lives. You are one busy woman.
Yes.
Thank you for reading
And
that. It's kind of fun to hear about myself.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So we're so happy to have you
So
here.
happy to be here.
And it's so interesting because your work blends mental health and art therapy.
Yes.
And it's in a whole body wellness unique way.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get into counseling and art therapy? Like, that's so interesting.
I know.
Yeah. Well, it definitely was a zigzag course for sure. It started off linear in a way in that when I was young, I was an avid reader. I loved doing art. You know, my neighbor and I we were always making coloring books of our own and different designs and things like that. And I knew, this is very strange, especially I work with a lot of young adults, so I think this is not typical right now, but I knew around 10 or 12 that I wanted to be a therapist. I had never been to therapy. I'd never heard of therapy. I was not exposed to therapy. But because I was an avid reader, I remember reading this book. I actually found it and ordered it maybe about 5-10 years ago, called Nobody's Fault. And it was a story of a young girl who, like most adolescents, was a little sneaky, and she put a dead snake in her brother's bed to trick
like a
her.
real one?
No, like just a fake one. I should say a fake one. Yeah, a fake one.
Okay.
This is at least what I recalled, and then when I bought the book, it's amazing. I remembered it right now. Unfortunately, her brother was outside on a riding lawnmower, and had a tragic accident and passed away. She felt that it was her fault because she had been doing this game, this trickery. And the parents took her to a child psychologist. She got the help that she needed. And I remember, in my 10, 12-year-old body being like, I want to be that person. I want to be the person that helps someone work through something so tragic. So that's where it started. Went to college in Indiana, went on to graduate school right away and got my master's in counseling psychology at that time. So yeah, that's kind of where it started and what led me to where I am now.
Wow.
So then were you counseling patients and then added in the art?
Great question. Yeah. So what happened is I was doing an internship. You have to do an internship when you're in graduate school. I was doing an internship at Rush St. Luke's hospital in Chicago, and my supervisor at the time said, you practice very much like an art therapist. And I said, I have no idea what an art therapist is. What is that? So that's why I say, like, my path is kind of zigzaggy. And so she introduced art therapy to me. So art therapy is a form of psychotherapy where you use creative expression. Could be artwork, could be journaling. It can, there's all sorts of creative arts. Some people do dance therapy. I'm not specialized in that, or movement, music therapy. But anyways, Linnea told me at the time, she's like, you practice like an art therapist, and I am an avid learner. and love school. And so luckily, being in Chicago at the time, there were 3 art therapy programs, master's programs. So I then continued on and got I didn't have to do the full master's. I didn't have to take statistics twice, thankfully.
Oh.
So I only had to take the art therapy classes. So I had art therapy with addiction, art therapy with the elderly, art therapy with other special populations. And so I got my master's in art therapy. And was able to do another internship at what's now Lurie's Hospital, was Children's Hospital at the time, working with kids and both on the oncology, hematology floor, and then also in their bereavement program. So all these things were just, I was open and was introduced or met some amazing mentors and kind of went along this path in that particular way.
So what demographic do you work with now?
So currently I'm in a private practice. So I'll go back a little bit. From the hospital, I went into a school, in a school setting, worked with young kids. Then I joined a group practice. I've been a clinician many decades. So I went into a group practice, and then once COVID happened, I went into my own private practice. So I am mainly young adults to just professionals. Really high, my population is really high functioning overachiever professionals, a lot of stress, a lot of different mood things going on. I love working with adolescents. I love working with teens. I also have 4 of my own, and so a lot of times to work with that population, you have to work after hours or after school hours and weekends. And so I see a couple of teens, but mainly I get my fill from working with teens by doing workshops. Like I might go into a school and do a workshop on body image, or I've done different things with Girl Scout troops and a lot of empowerment workshops. So I don't see a lot of adolescents now day to day, just because I'm creating my own schedule. But it's mainly young professionals that I work with.
But it sounds like you're keeping your toe in there,
Yes.
so that later on, when your kids are grown, you may decide you want to go back to this population.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do have a couple of college interns that work with me, and so we do run summer camps, and we'll do things for the youth and in different off hours. So I still work with them in a different degree.
Talk about the summer camps.
The summer camps, yes. So the summer camp, I was involved with an organization that since has closed its doors, but it was called Embody Love Movement, which is an organization founded by a psychologist and a yoga teacher who created basically a curriculum for self-love, for connecting with self and self-love, and then being able to connect with others, and then being able to connect with the community. So the camp that we're offering in this upcoming summer, we're going to start marketing it probably in about a month or so, will follow that curriculum, and it's mainly for ages 8 to 12. I'm a firm believer in exposing individuals young, similar to how I was exposed to that book at a young age, to have prevention and just exposure to things that are positive influences. So that's essentially what the camp's going to be geared towards.
It in the Chicago area?
It's in the Chicago area.
Okay.
We're still, one of my college interns is still locating a location right now, so we're not exactly sure where it's going to be, but it'll be somewhere in the surrounding Chicagoland area for sure. And we might run, if we have multiple or a lot of individuals that are interested in it, we'll run different sessions of it. So yeah, so a little TBD. The curriculum's all figured out, the staffing's all figured out. We just are working on some of the logistics.
That's so cool.
That's really great.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about what led you to be healthy with it.
Yes. So let's see. I think one of a really pivotal moment, when my youngest son, who actually is turning 16 in 2 weeks, will get his driver's license.
Happy
so I'll be
early
doing
birthday.
a lot of grounding exercises that day. Not grounding that he's grounded, grounding
Yes,
for
right,
myself.
right.
So he was a baby, and the other kids were in preschool and elementary school, and it's interesting because at that time, the elementary school got out at 2:52. Kind of a strange time. I think maybe it got out because the train track or different things that were going on. But I vividly remember doing something with Aiden, and looking at the clock, and it was 2:52, and I realized I had not eaten all day. Not from a restrictive standpoint, just was, trying to busy myself with the time, or to, other kids were at school, he was napping, I was working. I had a nonprofit that was part of the school that I was involved in, so I was doing. And I realized those basic needs I was not paying attention to. Maybe I'd eaten a little bit of a peanut butter sandwich off of his high chair or something at some point. But at that time, I made the conscious decision to, I knew I didn't want to go back to another master's. I didn't want to become a dietitian or nutritionist, but I knew in my gut and in my, really in my heart that nutrition was the piece that was missing from my profession. So I found this program online through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition that was a very holistic based health coaching program, and got introduced to many different components of balance, essentially. And so it was a year program. I remember going to dinner with my husband. I was like, I take all these classes. What do I do? What if I don't do something with this? And he was like, just bring some tips home for the family. It was like the most
kind of freeing
freeing statement. And so went to school, finished that program, and then shortly after I incorporated Be Healthy Within, because I knew, it was like the final piece, not the final piece because I'm still learning, but it was a really solid piece that allowed me to understand how the mind, the body, and the mind, our heart, and our gut all connects. And so that's where Be Healthy Within came in, and always had that clinical focus of mental health, but really this whole body approach that I was living to some degree, or at that point I wasn't living that well to some degree, and I really felt that that absence of it. So that's where it came into being.
So that was how many years ago?
It was, let's see,
He'll almost be 16.
He's 16. Okay, so I think it was, I want to say maybe like 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, 14
Okay.
is. I have to see when it was incorporated.
Right.
I think it was around 14. I was still at the group practice at that time. I was kind of double dipping in a lot of different things at the same time. And so it's funny when I really went out in the private practice, and I was able to have it be Healthy Within, because that had already been established. I had several people, they're like, oh, you're a therapist? And I was like, I've been a therapist since, 1990-ish, whatever it was. I've been a therapist a long time, but I kind of just added on all these different components to it. So
your population is high functioning, sort of executive level people, right?
Exactly.
So how do you weave this in when they come to you and they have anxiety and they're stressed out because their job and their family and everything? How do you weave that?
Yeah,
into it?
Great question. I bring a lot of it to the brain first, because a lot of people are, so a lot of awareness.
So I think most people don't realize, maybe you're nutritionally not whole, and so that's going to affect everything.
Exactly, yes. So we have three brains. Most people don't know that. We have three brains. We have our cognitive IQ brain. We have our heart center, our emotional brain, the EQ. There's a lot of talk about emotional intelligence now. That was not I shouldn't say that wasn't a thing. That always was a thing. We didn't really learn that in graduate school, but there's so much about this now. And then there's the BQ, the gut brain. And all three of them are connected through the vagus nerve, which is another thing that I also never learned about in graduate school. Our vagus nerve is the largest nerve that runs from our brainstem down to the gut, and it's bidirectional. So what that means is that, we might have a thought and it gives us an emotion, or it gives us a sensation, or the other way around. We might have a sensation and then all of a sudden we get a message to our brain. And so I do a lot of psychoeducation with my clients to let people know this is not a you thing, this is a human thing, that we all have a vagus nerve, we all have these three brains, and when we can work on getting them in alignment, then it's building that awareness piece that I like to talk so much about. It's understanding and accepting it, not being like, oh, something's wrong with me, I'm not doing X or Y, but this is what it is. This is how you've been making these choices. And then once we have that awareness, then we can cultivate a plan for change. So like I said, it's a lot of psychoeducation. I might ask very similar questions each session, like what does your self-care look like? When I said how I went into that nutrition program, I wasn't consciously trying to restrict my food. I just was unconsciously moving through life focusing on other things. I was being very mindless to my own needs because I was very focused on everybody else's needs.
Right.
And so that awareness allowed me to say, you know what, this isn't working for me in an accepting way, and then cultivate change. So I do a lot of that peeling back of, what's happening, what does your day look like, what does your day not look like, and then how can we change it. But those basic needs of food, water, movement, and sleep, I mean, this is Maslow's hierarchy. This is not Carolyn saying this. This is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Every human being needs those. What they need is different. I might need 8 ounces of water, you might need 40. I might need a nutrient-dense meal that looks one particular way, you might need something else. So it's really building that awareness of what's happening, and then where do we want to go from here.
You said a couple of things that stood out to me when you were talking about the 3 brains, right? I know so many people who talk about that they have like an emotional stomach, right? Or a nervous stomach. Like something happens to them up here, and then all of a sudden they're experiencing down there. And so that's the vagus nerve.
That's the vagus nerve.
That's the vagus nerve.
Yes.
Okay, so that's...
Yes, it's a vagus nerve, and it's useful because we're wired for survival, so it's what lets us know there's a threat coming up. We also have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and millions of
60 to 80?
60 to 80. And I have the neuroscientists, like I always say, if anybody wants to go into a field other than psychology, go into neuroscience, because there's so much research coming out that is so fascinating and normalizing the human experience versus us all criticizing ourselves. So 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. We have millions of data bits coming out from our body a day. And so the reason I say that is they're not all true. Every thought we have is not true. So I might have a thought, I'm hungry. I mean, I'm just focusing on that. And I actually just ate before coming here, so I'm not hungry. I'm actually really satisfied. But if I'm dysregulated and not in alignment, or don't have an awareness of what alignment even is, then we might make behavioral choices that don't align with what we need. So it's really a lot of awareness building.
And I would think fear would be a big one.
Absolutely.
Like, especially your executives with the population that you work with, I would think like they're very fearful. Like, what if I can't do this? What if I can't live up to the expectations of the job? Or what if I don't produce enough? Here are my goals this year. What if I don't make my goals?
Exactly. And that's, again, the brain. I mean, the amygdala, which is a tiny almond-shaped piece of our brain, is our fear center. And what it does is when it goes off, you feel fear, it goes off, it actually sends cortisol, adrenaline, it sends signals to the body to say, do X. Now, if they're misfiring, then we do X that doesn't actually get us to face the fear. So the word emotions, I know you all know how to spell, but emotions are energy in motion. So if we can regulate through basic needs like food, water, sleep, connection to friends and family, and movement, if we can be regulated and then tap into our emotion center, we can say, why do I feel fear right now? Fear actually lets us know there's something we need to face. If I'm sitting here going, I'm so afraid, and I don't have the clarity because my amygdala is running the show, it's going to be dysregulating. And so again, it's building the awareness is this is what happens, and then there's ways to support ourselves so we can manage the fear or whatever emotion it is.
And the thought, like you might have thought, I'm not going to be able to do this because you're afraid, but that's not really a true thought.
Exactly.
If you break it down and figure out how am I going to get there, but I think that fear just kind of like pops up, and then you start believing that rather than working through it.
Yeah, and when the nervous system is dysregulated, because we're wired first for survival, it likes to have all or nothing thoughts. Like, I can't do this or I can do this, because it might sound, it is distorted in a way, but when we're in a very high crisis situation, I want to be able to make it simple. Should I fight or should I flight? Should I stay or should I go? And so that is wired into all of us so we can survive. Most situations that my clients and myself included, when I'm at that high level dysregulation, most situations are not that crisis mode. So the reaction doesn't match the situation, and so that's where we want to regulate and then say, should I stay or should I go? It's more open and curious and connected, essentially, to ourselves and to our core values, what's really important.
I've heard,
sorry.
No, I've heard the expression before when you were talking about, all the thoughts and everything, and some of them are true and not true. And I've heard the expression of, we tell ourselves red light stories, and right, and we convince ourselves of something, and it's a red light story. But how different would things be if it was actually a green light story?
Right.
And we just change our internal dialogue and the way that we look at things. And I think of that all the time, and that's what came into my head when you were talking about all of those different thoughts. And when you said they're not true, it's we can be our own worst enemies at some time.
100%.
Right?
Yeah. Stressors come in two categories. I mean, it's not that simple, but I like to simplify it. Internal stressors and external stressors.
Okay.
So external might be, my kids or my clients or, mortgages or whatnot. Internal is all the stuff that's going on inside. Not just this part, but here and here. So I might be having all these, like, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, or I might all of a sudden have an emotion that's like, I feel this way or that way. And they may be true. I'm not saying dismiss it all, but we need to have some processes in place to first regulate, ground, and then question yourself and say, is this true? Is this really true? I mean, that's a cognitive mindful practice of, is this true? Is this 100% true? And then once we get to that point, then we can take our path to move forward and make change at that point.
So you use the word ground, grounded, you were grounding. What small steps can listeners take this week to feel more grounded?
Yes. I like to tap into the body for this. So, and I share this with my clients often. I have several chairs in my office that I might sit in when I'm on telehealth. So, for example, I have a chair like this that's a high back. So during session, this is the one thing about telehealth, that there's many things about telehealth that are beneficial, but one thing I learned as a practitioner, because I see myself in a little window, how I move in and out with my clients. And so, I might get into session and they're really emotive, and that's great for your best friend to be emotive with you, but I don't think most people want their therapist to be like, oh my God, what's happening? So I could see when I would get hooked on my clients, and I would practice and model for them how to ground. So it might be just put your back against the chair, or put your feet on the ground. Like I mentioned, I have a couple different seats. If I'm feeling really antsy, I have a yoga ball that I sit on, and so I have to be a little bit more aware of myself, or else I'm going to fall off in the middle of session. So it's getting into the body. I also love to share like tangible objects. I might say to my client, like, do you have a bracelet or a necklace, something that you can ground on? So if the body itself isn't working for you, can you use a tangible object? It might be something that that you wear all the time, and then you just put your finger on it.
And does that send a message to your brain? Is that what grounding is?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Grounding. Yes. So that's actually, that's extra credit. You can do the physical practice, and that's the subconsciously it'll send the message to the brain. You can also add in mantras, which are words. The fancy mantra basically just means words. So you might say, I am grounded, I am safe. Mudras, which are our hand signals, like often this is the compassion hand signal. I do this all the time with my clients, or I might, if someone's going through something really harsh, I might do two hands. And I do this a lot of the times, I do it naturally, subconsciously, but I like to bring these practices into the conscious awareness, because we can do this driving in the car. We can do it, sitting at a board meeting. We could do it in a classroom, do it in a meeting, but it's what works for you. So that's essentially what grounding is.
I've also heard the definition of grounding. Go outside, take off your shoes and socks, and stand in the grass.
Yes, absolutely.
And is that another version of
Yeah.
it? Is just kind of getting in tune with the earth.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And there are grounding mats. I mean, there's different mats that you can buy for, there's still, I don't research those, but there has been some data that shows that it does bring in the pull of nature if we can't get outside. So absolutely, anything that just allows you to center and use your body to connect to something outside of just what's going on inside.
There are so many things. My mind is going right now. I have
I
60
know.
to 80,000 things that I want to talk to you about right now.
I feel like we need to have you back for
We
a part two.
I mean, we
because-
haven't even talked about art therapy.
Nothing.
Like,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
There's
So I hope
so
you will come
much.
back.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
But but we're running out of time
I
a little
know.
bit. But we have a little lightning round.
Okay.
So we're just
Let
going
me
to
get grounded.
We're just
Yeah.
gonna ask whatever comes to mind. There's no
Okay.
right or wrong to
Yeah.
this. It's just something fun to do. So, what do you like in the morning? Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay.
Go-to grounding exercise.
Feet on the ground.
Okay.
One thing you wish everyone understood about mental health.
That we all have brains, so we're all going to have mental health. Every single person has a brain, and that is our mental health. So it is normal to have mental health.
And important.
And important.
Right? Like,
yes.
that's, okay. Favorite creative outlet besides art?
Yoga practice.
A book you often recommend.
Ooh, like nonfiction, fiction. Fierce Compassion by
Okay.
Kristen Neff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Early bird or night owl?
Oh gosh. Okay, I'm up in the morning, but I think I'm kind of like a middle of the day bird. Really? I mean, I'm up in the morning and I get some energy at night, but my flow is more like 10 to 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yep.
And if you weren't a therapist, what would you be doing?
Research.
Okay.
Research. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you clearly are doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks
And this
for
has
having
been
me.
such a pleasure.
Yeah.
We will definitely.
I really hope you will come back for
I
part
would love
two.
to.
Yes,
I
there is
love-
so much. We scratched the surface.
I
I think
know.
we could have a part 3 too also.
Exactly.
So
I'll just move right in with you.
yeah, come on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Carolyn, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
here
for having
today.
me.
Yes, thank you, Carolyn.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
thank you for tuning in, and we hope you join us next week for another episode of Help Nobody Told Me. Make sure you subscribe and share this episode to anyone you think might enjoy it.